my next question is about the name of the chapter, which is Dodo, Phoenix, or Butterfly. And you equate these species with options for the future of our civilization. So I was wondering if you'd like to explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I came up with this neat way of putting it with a bit of help from my wonderful transformative adaptation colleague, Morgan Phillips, who runs the Glacier Trust, one of the still relatively few organizations which is really focused on adaptation. And the idea is this: as I see it and as laid out in my little book, This Civilization is Finished, there are three possible paths forward now for us, three possible futures that we could co-create. The worst of those futures is the one termed Dodo, which basically means the extinction of human civilization. So that's societal collapse driven by ecological and climate decline. And that's where we may be headed if we really carry on with something quite close to a business as usual trajectory. The second option is a kind of variation on that theme, but a much more positive variation on that theme, which is Phoenix, which is, yeah, there may be a civilizational collapse, but perhaps a new civilization can arise from the ashes, so Phoenix. That is now the option, that is now the scenario that I consider the most likely to occur. I think it's going to be very difficult for us to avoid now some kind of collapse event or events in the coming decades. But if we do, and we manage to turn the situation into a Phoenix one rather than get stuck in Dodo, then that will be, well, a lot better. And we can prepare for that right now. And that's part of the task of transformative adaptation, is to prepare for that possibility. It's also part of the task of deep adaptation. Deep adaptation, which is also covered elsewhere in your book and which I talk about a little in my chapter, is of course the idea that we need to prepare for possible civilizational collapse. I think that's absolutely right. And I've just put together a book on deep adaptation with Jem Bendell, the originator of the concept. But I also think that transformative adaptation is absolutely crucial. It is likely to be of wider appeal and has the potential advantage over deep adaptation that it aims at the third scenario, the most desirable scenario, which is avoiding collapse, which is having transformation without collapse. And that's the scenario that in the Transformative Adaptation Collective we've called the butterfly scenario. The idea obviously being that a butterfly goes into a chrysalis and then emerges in a new and actually better form. And the society that we could have if we genuinely, voluntarily, collectively, transformatively adapted would be in many ways better than the society we currently have. It would be more local, it would be more based in community, it would be more secure. It would involve people in having more of a physical labor aspect to their lives, which is something that so many of us are missing, which is bad for our health, including our mental health. And so many people are missing any kind of connection, not just to each other, but to the land. And that's what could be gained in a transformatively adapted future. So whereas in Phoenix, you have to die before you're reborn, in Butterfly, you don't. You enter into this stage of challenging transition, but then you emerge from that. So yeah, those are the three possible futures as I see them. Butterfly, the most desirable, but very difficult now to attain. Phoenix, the most likely, not as desirable as Butterfly, but far more desirable than Dodo, which is where we may be headed if we really don't make any course correction.